I spent my 21st birthday in the emergency room as my college best friend gave birth to a kidney stone that we named Emma. Emma Stone. That was also the day that I held her hand for the first time. I had wanted to hold her hand for a while, wanted to do other things for a while too, like kiss her or tell her how I had accidentally fallen in love with her. We'd only known each other for 8 months, but I was drawn to her intoxicating blend of charisma and kindness from the moment that I met her. It took me 6 months of wondering if I had done friendship wrong my entire life. Was this sort of intensity normal between female friends? Before it dawned on me that what I was feeling was something different, something more. But something more wasn't possible for us. She was straight, and I was only just beginning to realize that I was apparently bisexual. Taking chances was never my forte, so it seemed far safer to preserve our friendship as it was than to risk everything by telling her how I felt. Even high on Vicodin, and still waiting for the kidney stone to pass, she was adamant that she was not going to miss any classes. She was a commuter student, and I lived on campus, so she asked if she could stay in my dorm for a few days while she recuperated. I agreed, though nervous how this new proximity might complicate things. She recovered by the end of the week, but she never moved out. I like living on campus, she told me by way of explanation, and I was happy to have her stay. I did notice a distinct change in our friendship, however, after she moved in. There was an added sense of intimacy that came along with our new living situation. We were more of a unit than individuals. We lived together, ate together, and did just about everything else in between together. And with this change, I began to unravel. My mind began to interpret looks that she gave me or words that she said as clues that she was interested in me romantically. For example, in April, she heard Can't Fight This Feeling by REO's Speedwagon for the first time, and she began to play it on repeat constantly whenever I was around. In June, over dinner, when I told her that she had the most beautiful eyes, she choked on her water and had to excuse herself from the table to recover. In July, she began to hold my hand in the car whenever we drove places. Maybe she likes you too, my heart told me, but my brain knew I was just wishing too hard for something that I would never get. And so I did my best to ignore the conjured signs. By August, I could no longer handle the anxiety that the situation gave me. I needed to know where I stood, where she stood. I knew I should tell her the truth and be honest, but I just couldn't find the right time. And then, one Sunday in early September, just around midnight, I walked her to her car and I kissed her on the forehead. Now, this was a gesture we both did upon occasion, but this time was different. This time she said, "You missed." I stared at her, unable to speak, and she had to prompt me with "Is there something you want to tell me?" It was time. It was finally time, and so with a rush of adrenaline, I told her everything. I told her how I had been in love with her since February. I told her how worried I was that she would reject me. She laughed and said, "Do you remember that time when I had a kidney stone? And you came to the hospital and held my hand and took care of me? Well, I had a crush on you then already, but that's when I knew I loved you." It was such a surreal experience, feeling the axis of my life rotate with one simple exchange. All of the anxiety that had plagued me for months shifted into a sea of butterflies aflutter in my stomach. And as I kissed her for the first time, finally, it felt so right. And you know what? It still feels right. It's been a number of years since that night, and she remains my favorite person, my best friend. My grandmother once told me that the smartest decision she ever made in her life was to marry her best friend. So Carrie Ann,